one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Yo-yo-yo.
Booty doo ba 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 da diddy skitty did dee da da ba ba da doo 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 yo yo yo.
Booty doo ba 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 da diddy skitty did dee dee ba 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 doo 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 yo yo yo. I'm skinny bop 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 Jimmy. He dogs and she dogs playing with a yo yo yo. Doo 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 da ba ba doo 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 skitty da 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 ba da da yo yo yo.
Calling the voicemail line at TBTL 206-414-8285.
Holla out.
TBTL. Brother, who are you? What are you doing? I'm with the news, dude.
Today, I am making this studio a no embarrassment zone.
You seem like a real down-to-earth dude.
Implicitly. You could absolutely implicitly trust me.
I'm gonna bring 110% to the table on a daily basis. So one thing I would do is like this.
Okay, that's great.
I love you. Oh my God, with your cheekbones and your guitar playing, and it's all very, very attractive and very, very talented.
Sweetie, have a good show. What you do is so important.
Well, all right. Hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Tuesday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
Two men celebrating each other's strength.
My name is Luke Burbank. I am your host.
Everyone has their own podcast where they have to admit stuff all the time.
Coming to you from Longmont, Colorado.
Oh,
right.
Ma, Pa, it's just beautiful.
I know that Montana is a big sky country, but I don't know what you call this place. Enormous sky country? I mean, it is. The views are pretty incredible in every direction. I did make a critical error this morning, which was I forgot that the elevation of Longmont, Colorado is it's just a hair under 5,000 feet. So it's more or less a mile-high city like its neighbor, Denver. And I got out on the mean streets of Longmont, Colorado this morning for a little jog, nothing too crazy. And at some point I started to think I was having like an asthma attack, or in a decent amount of discomfort and distress for not going very far on this jog. And my thoughts were racing. Have I lost all cardiovascular health? Am I, what is happening to me? And then I remembered we're a mile high. And that's the whole thing out here. So, but it was a nice morning here in Longmont, and we have a nice show in store for you. It's episode 4470 in a collector's series.
Let the fun begin.
Over the weekend, I saw the film Friendship and thought it was really interesting. And I hyped it up to my friend Andrew Walsh, and then he went and saw it yesterday.
Well, what did everybody think?
So now we can finally talk about it as a Cobro, a collection of Cobros, and we will do that today. Also, I darkened the door of a restaurant here in Longmont, Colorado last night that I will never, and I mean never, ever go to again.
No way, Jose.
We'll talk about that, too. Oh, and speaking of my good friend, Mr. Andrew Walsh, the longest-running Cobro of the show, may be best known for his depictions of the tall ships.
I just want you to be normal, and clearly you're not.
He is joining me right now. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Luke. I'm glad you're feeling okay. I'm glad you weren't having a cardiovascular event over there.
I just got really out of breath kind of all at once and in a way that I'm not used to. And I was genuinely confused. And this has happened to me before when I have visited Colorado. I think in the other case, it was just going up and down stairs in the hotel and just kind of like thinking, wait, is something going on? Because this is not how I usually feel after going up a flight of stairs. And then I have to remember that we're dealing with the whole altitude situation.
The upshot, though, is you've been hitting so many home runs. I mean, with the air up there, they're just sailing out of the hotel.
If we could just get some pitching, we might really be able to put together a championship run here. Yes, that does appear to be. Isn't that that's the story on the Colorado Rockies and their stadium? Is that
Coors
this is a great
Field,
place
I want
to
to
hit?
say. Yeah,
great place to hit home runs.
Yeah. Hey, when we were in Denver for the TB Telethon, we were just actually reminiscing quite heartily about that a few days ago on the show. Do you remember having that? Because you were going for jogs there, too. Do you remember that being an issue?
I might have had a little more time to acclimate because we maybe were there for a couple days setting up before the jog. And also, I think I was, at that time, going on a little bit shorter distances, too, or maybe running a little more slowly. I've been kind of doing what they call speed work occasionally, trying to up my pace. So I don't know if that's part of it. I don't remember the last time we were here and when I was doing those like eagle soaring jogs. I don't remember having an incident like I had today. But that could have been because of some other factors.
Now that we know you're going to live, can we turn the attention to me and my personal needs and how the listeners can help me make a big decision in my life?
Yes.
So after something happened yesterday, I realized I've put off getting a new phone long enough. And by the way, like, I'm not carrying around a phone that's like a decade old. I'm carrying around a phone that's 5 years old, but it feels like a decade because of, the way technology moves and all the apps get faster and bigger and whatever. And so my 5-year-old phone feels like a relic. It's a Galaxy S10. They're now up to the Galaxy S25, but between the two of us, don't tell them I said this, I think they skipped a few numbers in there.
No, that sounds like me doing a TBTL.
I sent Samsung a note. I said, it's not a big deal.
Hey, you got the numbering off, guys.
It's not a big deal, but just so you know, the numbering is off.
You know what I realized? When I get the numbering off, has it ever been the case that I've gotten the numbering off and I've went too high with the number? No, it's always, almost by definition, it's that I've missed a show and I've probably underreported. Don't you think it's almost always a case of underreporting the show number we're on, not overreporting?
Yeah, I would guess so, and I assume that you're doing that for tax reasons.
Yes.
I was telling you...
You and John are roped into some very questionable situations with TB. I just want to give you kind of a heads up on that.
I was telling you the other day that some listeners were pointing out some holes in our complete TBTL archive, saying this number's missing or that number's missing. And so for almost every one that was missing, I had it on a hard drive somewhere. Just for some reason didn't transfer properly. I think it had to do with maybe naming conventions being slightly off. Not. I don't even think it was your fault at the time. I don't know. We've transferred our archives.
Probably.
We transferred our archives a bunch of times, and when you're just transferring that much data, like, you're just going to get some loss here and there. So anyway, I was able to like kind of hunt and peck, find them, and upload them. And there was a time, most of these were in 2011 for some reason, and there was a time, I knew this from kind of transferring the archive originally, that there were some shows that were somehow like, this is so boring, in the metadata, the date was off by one, but the shows were fine. Like, in other words, I think for a while there, and again, I don't think this is original sin here, this isn't on you, but like, it was almost like the TBTL week went from like Tuesday to Saturday or something like that. You know what I mean? If you were actually tracking down the dates that were like kind of saved in the data, it didn't really matter much. I adjusted for that. But there, as I was hunting around and finding these missing shows, I had to listen to them very carefully just to make sure, like, okay, this should be this number and this date. And you've always said the date, at least you say the day of the week at the beginning of every show, and the number. And I did not detect, in probably hunting down a couple dozen of these, and maybe even like 30 of these missing files, you were never off. However, there were several episodes where you pre-apologized for being off, and you were just like, oh, like, I'm probably off, like, please just don't get at me. And this is way back, this is 2011 I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh.
And you were just like, I know the numbers are off, please. And I was like, no, numbers are on, dude. You're fine. You're fine. And so I don't know how.
I can't even imagine the chaos of those days, because it's like, we're not at the radio station anymore. I'm kind of in charge of things now, but again, the broadcast is being held up by a stick. There's a sort of quasi-employee in Jen maybe at the time. Have you come on by 2011 yet?
I heard part of my very first appearance. Not the time Genevieve and I came to visit and you just heard us off mic once, but like, I heard the very beginning of, it was either the first or second time I was on the show, so it was either talking about my runaway note. No, I think it was the very first time, because I was talking about being a telemarketer. And I listened to the beginning of that. I made it like, I don't know, 30 seconds into hearing me before I just was like, I can't do this. I don't have whatever it takes, whatever fortitude it takes to listen to myself Be Nervous on TBTL in 2011. So anyway, I was just starting to sneak my way in as kind of an occasional guest there because you and I were working together at the radio station. So I
mean,
was just
there
there.
were just like, there was, famously the show in San Diego where I was on my way out to go do this corporate gig that was pretty soul crushing, and I had gotten just absolutely smashed the night before. I just felt as bad as a person can, just like physically and probably spiritually. There was, a period of time where the show was a half hour long because that's all I could muster when I was doing them solo. Like it's, this show was it was hanging by a thread there for a while, and it's kind of amazing, really, that it stabilized. You're of course a huge part of that, and then that I managed to keep you on board while you were working a very stressful, hard job as the executive producer of a public radio show in Los Angeles, which is not an easy gig. Somehow there were so many points where this thing could have just gone away, and it kind of didn't, and and here we are, face to face, a couple of silver spoons. It's kind of a miracle.
And that's why I want to tell you today is my last show as soon as I just figure out what phone to get. So back to the Galaxy.
You have explained to John how to upload the show, right?
No, I'm going to explain to you how to upload the show.
Oh, boy. Okay, let me get a pencil.
So yesterday.
Okay, yeah, back to your phone.
After watching the movie Friendship, which we'll probably talk about in a little bit. And by the way, we'll try to keep it spoiler free. I did get an email from somebody or a note or something that said, hey, listen, the movie hasn't even opened up across the states yet. It's only in select theaters right now. Could you just give us a chance to watch it before?
Could you just move to a place where it's one of the 60 screens where it's airing?
No, I think that they would.
It's not really a spoilery kind of movie.
No,
either,
we won't spoil it. But I thought that was very fair. And by the way, there was no. I put the tone in that there was no actual snark in it. They were just saying, hey, looking forward to
that person's on my list now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know the name. It just came from a phone number, but it was just like, hey, I'm going to go see it Thursday. Just try to avoid spoilers if possible.
Yes.
It's just completely fair. But after I got done seeing the movie,
Jimp a spoiler?
Jimp, just say Jimp.
It
like
sort
of is. I got to say that is one thing. Like this is a movie that is. We'll talk. You'll know when we're talking about it. But it's a movie that mostly lives on cringe, which then makes the actual funny parts funny. But it's not tons of laughs, and so therefore I actually would be careful. I was really worried that you were going to spoil some of the laugh lines for me yesterday because
I worked hard to not.
Jokes. You didn't, but I want to make sure that
because I was tempted
path.
to explain to you the parts that made me and Becca laugh, but then I tried to generalize them so you could experience them for the first time yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate that because that's a pretty big deal for me. I think I remember even the very first I Think You Should Leave sketch, or maybe the one that was on Netflix before it was officially a show. I remember you loved it, but you told me every joke ahead of time, and then I watched it, and then you were like, why aren't you as obsessed with this? I was like, well, because I kind of heard it first. I wasn't mad about it, but it's just a different thing. Anyway, all that is to say, we'll talk about the movie later. We're not even talking about it yet, but I did go to see it by myself. I thought there was a certain irony in going to see a movie called Friendship, about male friendship, and I'm just going in the middle of the day by myself downtown. A huge theater, by the way, that was completely empty because this is the downtown theater. It's not one of those more modern, smaller ones with the chairs that go back and massage you and
your least favorite movie experience.
Yeah, just everybody.
Although by yourself, if you got one of those theaters 100% to yourself, maybe that would change your opinion.
No, I don't want to sit in I don't want to sit in somebody else's public couch. It's gross. Jesus, can we just when we leave our houses, can we pretend that we're in public just for 2 hours during a movie? Anyway, having said all that, boy, can you hear me wheezing? I think I'm wheezing. It's still.
I did catch that. What altitude are you at right now? You're below sea level in that basement.
Let's say the story is about me meeting up with Vives for drinks, and let's just say that those drinks continued into the evening and followed us around to various bars.
When I saw a photograph of Teddy's as the Mariners were triumphing, I first of all, I thought this has turned into a really fun day for Andrew, but I thought also good chance it'll turn into a very fun night for Andrew.
Yes, and Vive. So I went to see the theater by myself. Genevieve is a grown adult and has a job and can't just say, oh, I need to go see this movie for work. And so I see the movie, but I'm texting her kind of throughout the day. In fact, I had texted her a couple of things about the cats earlier in the day, and she didn't respond, but she's been really, really busy at work lately, so no big deal. And then she was planning on meeting me downtown for a drink and to watch the Mariners game after the movie. So I had texted her before the movie, hey, let's meet at this cheesy sports bar that's around the corner. And she didn't respond, which is fine. So the movie ended, and I'm like, you know what? I can hop on the train, which is like right here, literally like half a block away, and be at Teddy's, and almost the time it would take me to choose a stool at this cheesy sports bar around the corner. And the one reason I was going to go to the sports bar was because they serve food there. But I was like, oh, I just ate tons of popcorn. Like, I'm not even hungry, so let's just to Teddy's it is, right? So I text Genevieve, okay, new plan. I'm heading to Teddy's. I'll meet you there. And I just figured, that's easier for her anyway. She works in the university district. That's a much closer train ride. And
you can admire Walt's sign work.
Exactly. And so anyway,
everybody wins.
And then I'm on the train and I'm taking, it's kind of, like, I don't know, 5 stops or something from downtown up to Roosevelt. And I'm texting a buddy of mine, no issues. We're, joking back and forth about some stuff. Buddy in New York, for whatever that's worth. I have friends in New York. No, just saying that, like, because the technology was working fine. But then, I know, I'm listening to the beginning of the game on my phone, and my phone will do this thing, or the MLB app will do this thing where when the phone goes to sleep, it'll kill the audio on the MLB app. It's not supposed to do that. It just gets janky sometimes, so I have to restart my phone. So I'm like, okay, I'm sitting on the train. Let me restart my phone. I promise you this is going somewhere. I restart my phone, and after I restart my phone, I start getting ping, 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 ping. I have missed so many text messages going back to Saturday. Genevieve is giving me an update on Jeff Pogula singing karaoke at the Eagles on Saturday. I didn't see that. She had seen a
one-time TBTL newscaster. It all comes back to the olden days today.
Exactly. Wanted to drop a little Poge in there.
A little Pojo knowledge.
Yeah, and so she had seen a coyote in the cemetery by our house. Sent me a picture of that. That was on like Sunday morning or something. Like,
now hold on
I had missed all, not even just from her, but from other people, from pop-up people coordinating things. I had missed tons of text messages that I don't know why. Some were getting through and some were not, is the point of my story.
Now, let me just ask quickly. This was not commented upon in the household. Hey, what did you think of that picture of the coyote I sent to you? Like, it's interesting to me that it sounds like you missed these, you did not respond to these messages, but there were no consequences for not responding to them.
No, because, Genevieve probably, I think maybe she sent me that coyote picture when I was volunteering, so she probably just thought I was busy. She did tell me later on Sunday before I saw the photo. She said, hey, I saw a coyote in the cemetery. We've been talking about that because there are a lot of them there. There are too many of them there, and so it's been sort of a talk in the neighborhood. So that's just like the coyote thing has just been an ongoing conversation. She didn't follow up and say specifically, did you see my photo of it? So no, none of them. I did think it was kind of funny because this is where cat ownership, the cat owners understand what I'm about to say. Like, a big chunk of my conversations with Vives are kind of like updates on the cats. And when we say updates, I texted Genevieve in all caps yesterday from my desk. Bingo just launched from my desk to the faraway windowsill, which is something that our older cat had been able to do, but Bingo has always been too small and weak to make this one flying leap from the edge of my desk to this far away, like the windowsill that's further away from the desk, and he just launched himself into it yesterday. And I was
it's like the cat equivalent of like measuring the cats and in pencil on the door jamb.
Yes,
it's
right.
It's a developmental stage for the cats. They can make this leap now.
Yeah, and I don't really think he's growing anymore, so I just figured out that's too far of a jump for him. That's fine. And so I was that was the one that I was like, oh, that's funny that Genevieve isn't as excited about that as I am. But I know that Genevieve was having a tough day. And so, again, that was one of the only ones that I thought, oh, that's interesting. But, yeah, and also, do you remember yesterday me, and John had a somewhat confusing text conversation?
Yes.
I was getting follow-ups, but I had missed the original text that you had sent.
Right, okay.
So for some reason, that one of the texts had gotten stuck, and so I only got all the follow-ups. And so anyway, I'm on the train. I'm like, this is it, bud. Like, I've been saying I need a new phone for a while. I know what's going to happen here. It's going to be one of those things where I'm like, well, I can't buy it right away because I have to spend some time to do the research. And then I'm finally going to just say, that one, and I'm just going to point to something. I'm going to get myself one of those Mickey Mouse party phones from the 80s. Like, I don't even like
get a Cricket. Just get something with like a giant button for 911 and another giant button for your grandchildren.
I'm just going to get something I can wear around my neck and push a button if I need somebody.
Life alert.
So this is where I could use the listeners. I'm not asking you to do your research, my research for me. I have some reviews of comparing these two phones. It looks like it's a pretty obvious choice between the Pixel 9 or the Samsung 25, I guess it is. They're a similar price. They seem to be like the two people are gravitating around. I would just like to know if anybody has any warning stories about either one of those phones. Like, oh, you won't realize until you have it that you aren't able to text Genevieve on it. First of all, I don't know why everybody's trying to text Genevieve.
A problem probably for you. Now, can I weigh in on this? Because I actually have Samsung thoughts by way of Denver International Airport. Yesterday, as I was walking through DIA, I noticed that they had a sign near one of the TSA stations that said, now you can download your ID into this Samsung app and use it at various airports. Now, I don't know what the various airports are, and I don't know if this, it struck me that this might be distinct from there are certain states.
The Georgia law we were talking about just the other day. Yeah.
Right. So there are certain places, I don't think it's very many. There are certain states where you're allowed to upload your ID into this, secure app, your driver. This is because by the way, I still don't have a driver's license, like a physical copy of my driver's license. But so you can upload that into your phone and then you can use it to get through security. So if heaven forbid you were to lose your ID on a trip, you'd still have it. Now, I saw this Samsung thing and I thought, ooh, that's actually a very attractive. I don't know if that just overlays with the whatever 3 or 4 states that currently do it, or if that's its own kind of a program that somehow Samsung has gotten some kind of a, whatever you want to call it, a variance on or something, like they're allowed to do this. But I have to say, like, man, if having a Samsung phone allows you to upload your driver's license into it and use that in more places than you would otherwise, that's a kind of an appealing sales pitch to me.
If that's accurate, I'm a little bit dubious that technology. I mean, in this day and age, what I'm about to say sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but even at this stage of Muskism, I'd be sort of surprised if a technological doodad that is proprietary technology supersedes actual federal flying law. You know what I mean? Like I have a feeling like it might just be something. It might just be their version of ours is toasted. You know what I mean? It might just be them trying to like distinguish themselves, even though it's either accepted or not. You know what I mean? As far as the official
here's
ID.
What AI says, which again, can we trust the AI? Because it's part of the whole problem.
Trust it
so
more
it
than
might
me.
It might just be, also it's very sad, Andrew, how many times I'm now just reading the AI summary. Like I feel my humanity sort of decomposing in real time, because you and I both used to complain like, AI, don't summarize this for me. This is BS. But then on the 30th time, I just started reading it because it was the top of the page, and now it doesn't feel weird for me to read it. Here's what AI Overview says. Yes, you can use your Samsung Galaxy phone's Samsung Wallet to store and present your digital driver's license or state ID at TSA checkpoints. The TSA now accept mobile IDs stored in Samsung Wallet.
Okay, so it is specific. Okay, so everything I just said, if that's to be believed, is completely the opposite of the truth.
But also that could maybe only apply to the places where this has already been made legal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm with you. I would be very surprised if I could walk up to the airport in Portland and show them my ID on my phone, even in a Samsung phone, and have them go, right this way, sir. Like, I feel like there needs to be, at a state level, some agreement that they're going to do this before, like you said, the technological solution or Samsung, I'm just repeating you now, but I pray to God anyway, we're not yet at the place where Samsung is setting state policy for IDs.
Yeah, right. Yes, but
although that feels extremely plausible, unfortunately.
It feels like we're out of step there. I am surprised. I'm looking at the net, and this is going to get kind of boring, so I'll make this quick. But I am looking at the Galaxy S series phones, because this is mostly what I've had since I ever got like a actual smartphone that didn't have its own keyboard or whatever. So going back a ways, I've been, on the Samsung Galaxy tip, and so I have the S10, which came out in, I guess, 2019, so I guess it's 6 years old. They did release one. I see what they did here. They went from S8, S9, S10, and then in the year 2020, they just changed it so that the number reflects the year. So they just skipped everything between 10 and 20. And then in 2020, they released the S20, and I did not realize that they have released one every year since. So there was a 21, a 22, etc. And now I guess the 25 is relatively new. If I were to get this week, then I'd be getting a piece of technology that came out nearly 5 months ago, which is appealing to me. It's rare that I'm that current with these things. But I will get a phone, and maybe it'll make me a better person all around.
Well, I would say really enjoy this week of consequence-free not responding to people.
Yeah, well,
I would. I'd
sorry,
play
I'm
that
out
up if I were you.
I'm out and about.
You're out and about. I got out and about last night, Andrew, in this hotel district that I'm in Longmont, Colorado. Longmont is an interesting little area. I haven't explored it too much, but it appears to be mostly like really sprawling kind of tech one-story office park kind of territory. Like this morning, I jogged by what I believe is the world headquarters for SanDisk, i.e. the people that make the SD cards.
Oh,
I thought,
hell yeah.
I sometimes I have a big fear of like not having an SD card that works when I'm on the road. Like I have a couple of extras in my bag just in case. Like we use these. I use them for recording as sort of a backup. But I was routing my run this morning, and I said, I'm going to run by a gigantic office park that says SanDisk on it. I could probably get one there if I needed it.
Oh my God.
But,
I mean, when you say that, I don't need an SD card right now, but I'm just like drawn towards the idea of it. Like I picture, like if you work there, first of all,
the main vein.
They just have
it's just
bowls
gushing
of it.
SD cards are just shooting out of some sort of a
well, there's definitely
river
a
of
ball
SD.
pit of SD cards that you can jump in. Like obviously,
Yes.
that's for fun.
Obviously.
But also, like in the lobby and everything, it's just probably like bowls. Like instead of candy, they just probably have just grab yourself a handful of discs and put it in your pocket. I want to go there. It's like Willy Wonka for
that is
for SD
I think
cards.
probably the most excited response that anyone's ever given to finding out that somebody else was staying near SanDisk world. But anyway,
As
it's
Gene
kind
Wilder
of this,
is rowing me down a river of sand discs and telling me a scary
which of the
poem.
kids would you be? Would you? Because here's the thing: you're too excited about it, so you might be. Would you be Augustus Gloop of discs?
No, obviously I'm Charlie. I am the
okay,
hero.
good. I mean,
of the
I think
story.
you're pure-hearted. I do think you're very
Yes.
pure-hearted,
Yes.
but you're also a little too hyped about this, my
Yeah,
friend.
I really am.
So that's why they'd find you
Yeah.
like trying to like put your mouth into the river of sand discs.
Yeah, exactly. I'm dipping. They catch me dipping a computer into the. I'm dipping my laptop, just going. No, you can't put it in there directly. What are you doing? Out! Get out!
But it's also this kind of place where I'm staying in a residence inn, which, by the way, I'm a residence inn guy. I've said this before. Like, I'm not even in a particularly new one. Honestly, it's kind of old. But like, these places are clean. The staff is really nice. It involves a kitchen that I've literally never used, but I just kind of like it being here. Like, this is my go-to. If I'm staying somewhere that maybe doesn't have anything more bougie, it's generally speaking always treated me right. But it's also like I'm near a Candlewood Inn Suites. It's like it's my hotel. It's a Spring Hill Suite. It's a Candlewood Inn. It's a I'm forgetting. There's like 5 of these very sort of like generic kind of corporate-y hotels that you stay in when you have a meeting with the SanDisk people.
Yeah, right. Of course.
And so they've got the sort of the style of restaurants that are like walkable from here that appeal to somebody who's here to do business with the SanDisk people but need to get something to eat the night before. And so I was kind of wandering around last night looking for somewhere to eat. They had a Red Robin. They had some kind of a tiki restaurant. And then they had a place I've never been before, but that I don't even want to say intrigued by, but I heard a data point about this place that I was surprised, which is that I believe it is right now maybe one of the fastest growing restaurant chains in America. It ranks very high in terms of, I guess, I don't think you'd call it fast casual. I think this is more just like sit down dining, but it's called Texas Roadhouse. Have you been to a Texas Roadhouse or spent any amount of your time thinking about the words Texas Roadhouse in that order?
No, not that I can recall.
Nor have I, other than reading some article at some point, maybe about the demise of Red Lobster or Olive Garden or something, just kind of reading about the industry as it relates to these sort of kinds of restaurants, the kinds of restaurants that you'll see in suburban America, often in, again, one of these huge paradises that's been paved and now it's mostly parking lot, and you've got a Best Buy and you've got a this and then you've got a Texas Roadhouse again is apparently very successful and one of the fastest growing restaurant chains. And that struck me because I thought they must be doing something right there. If they're growing faster than as these other restaurant chains are sort of suffering, if they're growing, there must be something special about this place. And so, I don't eat a ton of meat, but I figured They got to have a salad in there that I could have and a baked potato. I mean, I understood that it was going to be sort of steak forward, but like they probably have some land crab. They've probably got, a few things that I could find on the menu that would be fine. And so I mostly went in just kind of from an anthropological perspective. Like I just wanted to kind of see what this was all about and why it was so popular. And so I got seated. I will say this, the staff was incredibly nice. Very, very well-trained staff. But I sat down, I ordered my Diet Coke, I started looking at the menu for stuff that I could eat, and then I started looking around at the food that was being brought out to everybody else. Because, by the way, place was hopping on a Monday night in Longmont, Colorado. And I just want to say, Andrew, and this is peace and love. If we have somebody who works at Texas Roadhouse, I just want to say, again, the staffing, everything about this place seemed great from the personnel standpoint. But when I tell you, Andrew, that the food that came out looked sub-cafeteria, it was wild. Like, I could not believe how bad the aesthetic presentation of the food was. Whether it really seemed like something that you would be getting at your middle school cafeteria in the late 1980s. Like I saw a steak come out with mashed potatoes, and it was just like the mashed potatoes looked gray, and the gravy looked brown, and the steak looked something or else, and then every single item of food I saw go past me looked like less edible than what other people had been getting. And I was just absolutely, and I started panicked. I was like, also, by the way, there was almost nothing on the menu I could eat. But, and also, I want to look, I don't know why I need to be dissing this place, Texas Roadhouse. I was just kind of shocked that this was the thing that was somehow apparently beguiling the food consumers, the restaurant attendees of America. That I really went in expecting them to have some kind of a, how Olive Garden, they've got their unlimited breadsticks and salad, and I don't know what Red Lobster's got, whatever, Lobster Fest or Shrimp Fest or something. Like most of these places, they kind of, Buca de Beppo, right? Like it's like they give you a crazy amount of food and you can sit in the kitchen at that Pope's table if you want. Like I feel like each one of these chain restaurants, they develop something that's kind of their thing. And it's kind of fun and it's kind of sets them apart. And it's like, it's why people like to go to that place. I could not, other than the workers being really nice there, I could not for the life of me observe anything about the food that was being brought out that would in any way make this something distinct. Like it was so incredibly middle of the road looking that I basically just I snuck out of there. I'm not totally proud of this, but I didn't know how to tell the server. I had ordered my Diet Coke. I put down $5 for my Diet Coke. I hope that's how much it was. I didn't have the heart to tell the server the food here looks largely inedible to me, and also there's nothing on here for somebody like me other than like there wasn't even like a big salad, like, hey, we do our shrimp salad and or our wedge salad, hold the bacon or something. Like there was literally like a house salad you could get or a Caesar salad. And I saw those coming out and those were very modest in terms of the different kinds of ingredients and stuff. Like I was kind of amazed and I didn't know how to tell this to the server. So I left some cash and then I did my move, Andrew, which is I pretended to be getting a phone call.
Oh, that's your move?
Well, the couple of times I've been in a situation like this before where I just I need to escape, but without talking to anybody about it, I pretend I'm on the phone, pretend I'm getting a phone call, and then I go, hold on, I'm stepping outside. And then I walk outside of the place, and then I just break into a dead sprint.
Just action movie style.
Yes. And just with my hands like blades.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? My
Tom
hands are
Cruise,
just like stiff, like a Tom Cruise run.
Yeah.
Did you see today that you and I are having very different Tom Cruise experiences, I think, because I think the whole Tom Cruise does his own stunts thing. It's pretty cringe. And then just kind of like the more that Tom Cruise does to say, like today, I believe he was quoted as saying he wants to be the first action star over age 100 to star in an action movie.
No, I did not see this.
I saw that headline
Although
today.
I heard something that shocked me. I mean, it makes total sense and it's not a hidden fact, but I got to the movies very early yesterday in time to see the beginning of Maria Menounos' Nuvi segment.
Ooh,
and
somehow heartbreak feels good.
Yes,
in a
I got
place
to
like
see
this.
the whole kit and caboodle, the whole thing, all the commercials, everything. It was actually
Nice.
helpful because I even saw a commercial for Indeed that had good audio that I can use in tonight's After These Messages podcast. So I'm always working. The point is TBTB is paying for my trip to
always
the movies.
be contenting
Yesterday. But I was going to say that in one of the first things in like that Nuvi fake news is just like commercials that are packaged with Maria Menounos.
Menounos, I believe.
Okay. Anyway, they did a little package on the Mission Impossible franchise. They started it by making it seem like it was a look back at the year 1996, I want to say. And so they're talking about this is what was going on in 1996. You could burn CDs for the first time and this and that and this and that. And they mentioned, and this
SanDisk was just a startup company in Longmont.
And they mentioned that, and Mission Impossible, dropped its first movie, and I'm like not paying that much attention. I'm sort of getting settled in my seat or whatever, and then they're like, and 30 years later, the final movie in that franchise is dropping, and it occurred to me like, wow, that was a 30-year franchise that didn't have any significant downtime that required a reboot. You know what I mean? If you think of something that is like 30 years in the making like that, it means that probably some sort of movie IP or whatever maybe went dormant for a while, then somebody picked it back up with new actors, new creative team or whatever. But no, that franchise in its current state with current talent and creative and everything has been going on for 30 years. Does that shock you? I was shocked. This feels like an old man
absolutely
conversation,
shocking.
but yeah, it's wow.
I would say that's probably a testament to Tom Cruise and his youthful sort of appearance and ways and things, because he's not aging at the same rate that the rest of us are in terms of like his physicality, and so he can keep being the guy, whereas even Harrison Ford, you see Harrison Ford's roles kind of changing. He's still a badass, but he's kind of like, when they remade Raiders of the Lost Ark, it was like Shia LaBeouf or something. It wasn't, he's not the guy doing the whip at a, big rock. I'm unfamiliar with a lot of the plot of Indiana Jones, but I think it's a movie where he whips a rock.
He whips a rock. Yeah. Oh, wait, that's 50 Shades
him.
of Jones, I think that you're thinking of. That's
possible show title.
That's a different one, yeah.
But the reason I say that we're going in different directions with Cruise is because I was talking to this guy that I've become friends with named Marshall, who produced like The Last Samurai and a number of movies with Tom Cruise. And I was like, so what is the deal with this guy? And he was like, he's like the nicest guy you would ever meet on these sets. And he is like, he makes eye contact with everyone. He talks to everyone, including the crew. He was like, he's the most prepared person on the set, but he's also really good with everyone. I think because of the jumping on the couch with Oprah and the Scientology, and then him screaming at the crew on that pandemic era movie, I had really kind of gotten a very sort of curdled view of this guy.
Oh, I thought we had I thought we had the complete, because we've talked about this before, because everything that you said lines up with what I would expect of him. You are right. I forgot about the jumping on the couch. That was a tough period for his PR
for all of us.
But like since then, that even like sort of yelling at the crew thing was always spun as a pretty positive thing, because he was a consummate professional, and he really did feel because I feel like you and I have said before, I think he's cringe. I don't think he's a bad guy, and I do actually respect I think he's really, really, really dedicated to his craft. Like, whether or not you're a fan of it, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a fan. I think Genevieve has taken me to some Mission Impossible movies. They're all the same to me. At one point, he has to hold his breath underwater for a really long time while something spins around. Like, I remember
he has
that
to fly
part.
A helicopter underwater.
Wait, he does have to do that. Yeah, like I literally can't tell you much about it other than like I ate some popcorn and had a good time. But like I always assumed that he was a good guy, and that like rant is sort of more part and parcel with his nerdiness about aspect ratio, or that video that he made. That like he just really
to that end, we'd like a moment of your time to talk about video interpolation.
Very good. Wow. Yes. I don't know. I think I believe that. I mean, I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to have it reinforced, but I just want on the record, I've never thought that he's a jerk or something. I think he's just a little cringy when he does that, like those Olympic stunts or whatever. I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like that's just not for me.
I think I had kind of developed a more negative view of like a person who, and again, I don't think this is true, but you hear these. It's kind of weird, these rumors. I remember being a kid and hearing a rumor that Sylvester Stallone got somebody fired from a ski lift because they said something about his height. Yeah. By the way, how did that rumor in a pre-internet era, how did that get to a 14-year-old Luke Burbank in Seattle, Washington? Like what was the game of telephone that but
I'd like to know if that was widespread. That's not one that I had heard. That's not one that reached me in Ohio too.
That got to me in Seattle, that Sylvester Stallone was very, very insecure about his height, and that if you commented on it or asked him about it, you were immediately fired, including someone who was working a ski lift. And Tom Cruise is also maybe not the tallest guy, and so I had somehow created this idea that he was very insulated by some group of people that just so that no one could ever, I don't know. I think I had sort of the opposite opinion of what it sounds like he is actually about in real life. And you're right. I think the worst criticism is that he's a bit cringe. And he's covering up the whereabouts of David Miscavige's wife, the head of Scientology, which I find to be also a little bit troubling.
That weighs it down a little bit, I suppose, and the reputation
Does she do her own stunts of disappearing for the last 20 years?
Dark.
Anyway, we all knew it would end up here on today's episode, but the point is I ran like Tom Cruise away from that Texas Roadhouse right before it exploded, and I made it over to a sushi joint, which was totally serviceable. I got a double miso, Andrew.
Oh, nice. Oh, I still have a little miso in the fridge I should finish. Okay, I have a few things about your restaurant.
Everything ended well. I guess I don't know why I needed to get up early today to kind of be negative about a restaurant, but I guess I literally wanted to report this as a public service that if you're in a place and there's 4 restaurants you can go to and one is a Texas Roadhouse, I can't personally vouch for it being the right decision. Now, maybe somebody out there loves it and they've got their special thing they order and it's really good. To that, I salute you. That's me and Red Robin. I've got a long history with Red Robin. By the way, there was also a Red Robin here.
Oh.
Which I didn't go to because
it doesn't really fit your eating lifestyle these days.
It's not fitting my eating lifestyle right now, and also they have Red Robin. That's part of why I went to this Texas Roadhouse, because I was like, well, I'm somewhere that's not my hometown. I want to do something. I want to explore. I want to live Moss. And so the Red Robin, I've been to Red Robin a trillion times. It's not, why would I do that? But anyway, what were you going to say? You have some Texas Roadhouse questions?
One thing I wanted to tell you, and this is just so lame that I have to do it this way, but I wanted to make you laugh so bad. When you were listing the other chain restaurants, I can't think of the name of the chain restaurant. Something Spaghetti that is in the movie Friendship. Remember, they reference it a couple of times.
Yes,
and there's a very
they end
quick
up
scene
going
where
there
they
for
have
dinner.
Yeah, just a dinner scene. That's not a spoiler, other than they eat dinner at one point.
They eat dinner, everyone.
But,
deal with it.
But it's something. It's like silly.
It's like Ricky. Isn't Ricky
silly spaghetti? I thought it was an adjective that had alliteration, but I could be wrong about that. Anyway, if I had just dropped that on you in the moment, it would have made you laugh, but I didn't.
I would have died.
I just wanted to know if you happen to remember it. But I know what you mean about that kind of chain restaurant. You know this about me. I grew up I grew up kind of in the middle of nowhere, but then when I became maybe high school aged or whatever, I lived in the suburbs, and I love a good, there's something so comforting about slipping into let me just slip into an Applebee's for a little bit.
Absolutely.
Let me just slip. I told you, when I was really hungry, when I was fasting the day before my colonoscopy, I was having fantasies about going to Chili's afterwards. I heard from a friend who said, oh, the closest Chili's to Seattle is actually in Spokane. Did you know that?
Whoa.
There aren't even Chili's around here.
What? You're in a Chili's desert?
I am, yeah. I think maybe you are as well.
We don't talk about this enough.
But anyway, so I definitely appreciate it. It's you don't, I think maybe
I'm not down on these chain restaurants.
Yeah, there's a time and a place for that, and it can be it can hit the spot. And so I just wanted to say that I understand that disappointment, because it could just be well, listen, if I have guests coming into town or whatever, and we're going to go out to dinner together, we're not going to go to is it Texas Roadhouse or whatever?
Texas Roadhouse.
But if you're traveling, it's one third second Jonah Lehrer reference on the show this week, I believe. But he was a buddy of mine, and I remember him when he was on his early book tours. He was telling me and Vives, and we quote it all the time. He's like, my secret is that I really like Chili's, but I can only eat it when I'm on the road because they're just not around that much. But when I'm in an airport, it's like, well, I don't have any options. I guess I'll just go to Chili's. And I just sort of find that charming. Like, you're on the road there. You're in the Sandisk capital district of the world. And it's like you're probably not seeking out a Texas Roadhouse during your, let's say, regular life or whatever, but you're there. You're sort of a captive of the moment. Let me go check this out. To have it be a disappointment. It's like the time I ordered those chicken riblets at Applebee's, and I was like, these are inedible. Like, literally, not that they tasted bad. They were just inedible because you couldn't eat around the bone. I wanted to see what it was that this place was doing that is causing it to be one of the few success stories of this kind of level of chain restaurant. And I just was expecting, and again, somebody might write in and say, well, you didn't order the this, or it wasn't your birthday, or like, there might be some kind of a special thing that I just kind of missed out on. Yeah. But I was looking for that. I was, I wanted to see some sort of a little production or something on the menu that was like, oh, this is what we do. This is kind of how it all started. This is what people always get when they come here, unlimited this or whatever. I don't know. I was looking for something to explain its existence, and I kind of didn't observe that. And I just thought I was a bit surprised by that. I got to say, though, I am on their website now. I'm just like, look, like, this is the exact kind of thing that, again, like, I would love to be a captive of the moment and have to just dig into this cactus blossom, which looks like a bloomin' onion kind of thing. Right, exactly. Or like fried pickles or whatever. Just be like, okay, well, I'm here. I got to eat these fried pickles. But it looks like my kind of like stuff. But that's another thing too. Not to try to sound like I'm trying to rival Tom Cruise for the clean living or whatever. But I think that's also probably part of why my enjoyment was low, because I'm going into this restaurant that you should be eating a bloomin' onion when you're there and a steak. And I'm going like, well, what kind of salad do you have? And, like, I'm trying to order around the edges of the menu potentially. So I'm not really giving this thing its best shot. I need to go in there and just say, this is a cheat day. I'm going to knock down a bloomin' onion, and then I'm going to have some fried pickles, and then I'm going to have, a loaded baked potato. Not just a baked potato, but a baked potato that has, a whole variety of things on it in addition. I did not surrender sufficiently to the process. Yeah. And so that's probably also part of the problem for me. Like, what's the point of going into a Texas Roadhouse if you're A, not going to eat a steak, and B, going to try to do the healthy version of it? It's like, what are you even doing here? So okay, let me ask you one last question about this, if you don't mind, about the Texas Roadhouse experience. Is it a place that I would find this very hard to believe for a chain restaurant in this day and age, given everybody's allergies, but it is not a place that has peanuts, like in the shell peanuts. It literally had a sign. Yeah. Outside the building as I was walking in, that was like kind of an old-timey picture of a peanut, and it said peanut dust like everywhere. Oh, okay, because I noticed that their logo, or not their logo, I don't know what this is. When you go on their website, there's like this super deal for Super Dad Father's Day special, and it's like two peanuts dressed like two cartoon peanuts dressed up like superheroes or something. So I was like, that maybe that's the thing, because like I can't remember what was the chain restaurant we used to go to as kids. Oh yeah, I didn't go to that. As a Five kid, Guys used to give you peanuts. Yeah, and you could just like crack the peanuts, and they're all over the floor and everything. Yeah. Is that the Roadhouse experience? I'd be shocked. I didn't see anyone else eating peanuts or throwing them on the floor. I don't know if that's only from 2 to 4. Or if they've had to stop doing that or what, but like there was a sign. It was one of those kind of like almost like you'd see in a Jimmy John's, one of those jaunty signs, just being kind of like, if you don't like peanut dust, this ain't the place for you, or whatever kind of, sort of energy around it. Yeah, it does say free it says Texas Roadhouse peanuts, free bucket, tradition and history. So I guess if I didn't see anyone, nobody, but I also was in there for about 8 minutes. Yeah. So again, I for people, if your happy place is a Texas Roadhouse, I don't want to yuck your yum. I was there for 8 minutes. I did not order the peanuts. I probably did it very wrong. But again, I just was I kept waiting to see something that explained to me the popularity of it, and it didn't quite manifest for me.
We was hoping for some razzle-dazzle.
Razzle-dazzle.
That's right, man, razzle-dazzle.
On your mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready. Go.
Everybody razzle-dazzle.
All right, let's thank some dazzling donors. These folks, I was thinking about this on my asthmatic jog this morning. These folks are donating this money completely voluntarily. I mean, this is a miracle that this is happening. These are folks. Sometimes when I'm out on my little jog, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm justifying the existence of TBTL to somebody who is for some reason suspicious of it. I don't know who. I didn't have a specific person in mind. I'm just shadowboxing out there sometimes. And I was just marveling at the fact that with everything that's going on in the world and the economy and all of the stressors, we've got enough people who are sending in money voluntarily that this can keep happening. This is 100% listener supported, and it's pretty cool.
Well,
and it's thanks to folks. Yep.
This is really embarrassing, and it's a terrible time to bring this up, but almost everybody gives voluntarily. I need to let you know that this is a bad timing because Scott Starr actually, this is the result of me threatening Scott for years and years.
Is this a community service? Is this part of a restitution package over some crimes that were committed?
It's a combination of information that I have about Scott that I'm keeping private for now, so long as the dazzling donations continue coming. Exactly. So in most cases, you are right, is a voluntary thing, but it's just not for our first donor today.
Of all the days for me to call this voluntary, it's the day we have one compulsory dazzling donor, and that is Scott Starr in Seattle, Washington. Starr like Bart Starr.
Oh, thanks.
Love it. Shout out, old school football reference. You didn't go with Darren Starr, creator of many kind of soap operatic shows of the 90s and 2000s. I always fill out my dazzling donor message late. It's a combination of procrastination and deep embarrassment at the thought that my words will be read on the virtual radio by my favorite co-bros. However, this year I'm thankful I waited because now I get to express the joy TBTL brought me when you played Mr. Tambourine Man by Alvin and the Chipmunks.
That was a moment.
That was really fun. Only on TBTL could you have an ordinary conversation about a Bluetooth-enabled turntable lead right to one of the zaniest things I've heard in a long time. I don't think I've laughed so hard since the election. And these days, that's a gift beyond price. Definitely worth a dazzling donation. Thanks for brightening all of our days. Scott, well, thank you. Yeah, that we've cited that in meetings subsequently as kind of like one of those happy accidents. You know, it's like Mitch Garver getting a hit. You don't expect it to happen, and there's so many times when it doesn't happen, and then it happens, and it's such a pleasant surprise. Like, we're just kind of stumbling around here, talking, making small talk, getting into SanDisk conversations, and then every once in a while, something happens, like the magic that was playing that Alvin and the Chipmunks song.
We'll draw the occasional conversational walk, sure, but it's very rare that we're going to hit it out of the park. And what I like about that moment is it wasn't you or I doing anything particularly funny. We were just reacting to the moment. The universe brought us that.
Yes, it was and it kind of, in a way, it sort of justifies the rambling nature of this whole thing, because if we had gotten up that morning and said, like, we need to play this, particular piece of tape because it's silly. I mean, we also do a version of that, but there's something that's really kind of magical about happening upon something like that without any prior planning and then being so just shocked and delighted by it as we were. So, Scott, I'm glad that worked for you as well. And thank you for supporting the program. We really do appreciate you. Maestro?
On your mark. On your mark. Get set. Get set. Now ready. Ready. Go. Everybody rattle.
Whoa, it's Amy Lake in Eugene, Oregon.
Hey, Amy.
Tracktown, USA, baby. Eugene. Big track town. That's Becca recently did a marathon there, actually. And when you stay in that, what are those hotels that we've stayed in Seattle and other places that are they're college themed?
Oh, is it Varsity?
No, it's not. It's like, how am I spacing on the name? I want to call it Collegiate, but it's not that. Anyway, the hotel that's associated there with the little convention center in Salem, in Eugene, rather, when you go up there, it's college in the name?
Is it? I mean, the College Inn. That's not. I know what you're thinking
not
of,
the
but
College Inn.
I'm not doing a good job here because the one that is the Graduate, right?
The Graduate.
Graduate. Yes.
Plastics, Andrew. It's all about plastics.
I just had to keep saying things.
Are you trying to seduce me, Mrs. Walsh, with knowing the Graduate? Yes, Graduate Hotels. Thank you. The one that's in Eugene has all kinds of Nike stuff in the rooms, like a waffle iron, because they apparently made the shoes that way. Amy's down there in Eugene, and Amy says, not much to say other than I love you guys and this community of tens. I've been listening since the early podcast days, and I am now proud to say that my wife Heidi and I are now a Power 10 couple.
Nice.
That's rare. That is rare. Because here's what I think. I think you oftentimes in relationships, you need a yin and a yang. You need different kinds of folks to kind of complement each other. Maybe one person is a little bit more outgoing. Maybe another person is a little bit more introverted. One person is very sort of punctual. One person is less so. This is often the case in relationships. We complement each other. And that usually means that if one person likes TBTL, almost by definition, the other person is going to find it absolutely
they have to hate it.
Abhorrent. But not in this case, not in the case of Amy and Heidi. They are a Power 20.
And are you remembering now, because I'm just remembering being the Blur's Day archivist, that it was just Amy's birthday last week, or maybe early
Look
this
at you
week.
remembering things.
Heidi
I
writing
definitely
in for
remembered that too, long before you told me.
Yeah, no, I know you did. You were just able to like kind of keep it quiet and just play it cool.
Yeah, I don't
like
have
that.
to I constantly show off
I
and
like
stuff
that.
like
Yeah,
that.
no, that's cool.
Happy Blurs, Amy. Amy says, keep doing what you're doing, dummies. Luke, I will look for you running the Eugene Half Marathon soon. Well, maybe next year. Maybe I'll get back. I'll tell you, what's the altitude in Eugene? Because if it's 5,000 feet, I ain't cut out for it. But Amy, thank you so much. And Heidi, thank you as well for being a couple that loves TBTL in equal measure. We love to hear it. So thanks to all of our donors today for making TBTL possible. Couldn't do it without you.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
All right, Andrew, I was so pleased. Not that I doubted you, but I was so pleased yesterday when at some point in the day I got a text from you, which was an obvious reference to a joke from the movie Friendship, and I knew the eagle had landed. I knew that the plan had come together and you had gone to see the movie Friendship. What did you think?
Since we already said it once, I don't mind. I just texted you, Jimp. That was all I texted you after the movie.
It's like Jump with an I.
It's like Jump with an I. That's the one joke in there that I will spoil. It was the movie was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Now, I don't know what that means off the top of my head. I don't know what that means objectively, whether that means I liked it or didn't. I did like it. I'm glad I saw it. But it was when I saw the trailer, I'm like, okay, this takes a little bit of that like very kind of cringy, I think you should leave humor, but it adds a real darkness to it. And also it's going to be sort of unrelenting. And that's what my hesitation was. Not that I thought it was going to be a bad movie, but just that like I realize like that the range of movies I can see that don't make me like kind of squirm out of my skin these days is getting narrower, because I don't like any kind of horror movies or anything that's going to jump scare me or whatever. And I realized that this one, this was right up my alley. But it's so cringe. It's so squirm. I mean, this like I was literally watching parts of it like through my fingers that I have to do sometimes because, the Tim Robinson character is just so delusional and self-centered and just really, really cringy to watch. I mean, that is the point of the movie, and they do a good job with what they're trying to do, but I find that kind of thing really, really hard to watch, and it made me think about I Think You Should Leave. Now, I might be messing up part of this origin story, but I'm pretty sure that I read or heard in an interview with Tim Robinson when I Think You Should Leave was a new sketch show. I'm pretty sure he said, well, the name comes from that thing that happens in our kinds of sketches where eventually somebody is acting away until somebody says, I think you should leave. Like whether he's going crazy at a party and saying, I'm worried the baby doesn't think people can change, or some, office situation, boardroom situation, like whatever it is, like eventually, usually his character, but a character acts so outlandishly that eventually it's like not literally said, but the vibe is, I think you should leave now. And the reason I love the show is because, first of all, the sketches themselves only last up until that moment. And then the show itself is only a collection of sketches that usually lasts like 20 minutes, right? It's a shortish show, I believe. Maybe a half hour long. I think it varies. And I realize that for that kind of comedy, I need that pressure release. And also there's just a darkness about this one as well. So I did enjoy it. It was what I thought it was going to be. I do recommend it. And this wasn't something that I kind of realized until this morning. If we can get into a little bit of like, not that I have to look for something to nitpick, but I was a little when you have a character like Tim Robinson, who's obviously acting in this character is acting by their own rules, which doesn't fit society. That's one thing because the person's a kook. But then you have other characters who are mostly normal. They navigate the world as we know it normally. And I would say his wife, who's played by Kate Mara, is one of those people.
Yeah.
And when the kind of normies in a situation like this, whatever kind of movie you're talking about or whatever, you get a little bit of this in Curb Your Enthusiasm as well. It's like, wait, is Larry David the only crazy one in a world full of normal people, or is the entire world crazy? And I felt like in this one, the world was supposed to be mostly normal, but that made it hard for me to understand what some of his wife's motivations were. Like, basically, again, it's not spoiling it too much, but their marriage is on the rocks. Like, that's a big part of the plot of this, and it kind of begins, and it's very obvious from literally the first scene that that's going to be a dynamic here. And I was sort of like...
By the way, I'll just mention kind of broadly that the first laugh of the film comes from like a way that Tim Robinson is being in this support group that they're attending.
Yeah.
And which the entire theater erupted. For you, it would be the entire Andrew erupted because you were the only person watching the movie. But the theater I was in, the whole theater erupted with something Tim Robinson did early. And then there's another moment where Kate Mara is saying something. She's wondering about, her life going forward. She's had a cancer diagnosis. That's also not spoiling anything.
It's literally the first thing you learn.
And there's like this moment where she's kind of talking about that, and then you see this reaction shot from Tim Robinson, which also just had me laughing for, but I guess but you're right. Sorry.
Let me get back into what I was going to say there, because there are some moments during their relationship where, like she sort of they're kind of drifting further and further apart, but then there are moments where she sort of softens towards his character, and I don't think they ever do a good job of ever showing what the initial attraction to him would have been, or what like there's a couple of times where they try to show it. It's like, oh, he made an effort, he made some breakfast, and so that's like, so, but it's like it's not enough. And I was thinking about this later, and this is going to be like so cliche Andrew, but I was thinking about it this morning, and like as I'm like kind of like working it out in my head, I'm like, what seemed like it was just sort of missing, or like there was just certain things that didn't sort of add up. And it occurred to me, this is a movie that is so much about male friendship and the male experience that it didn't flesh out her character enough. And like, even though there's a very specific stated interesting backstory of her, which is that she is somebody who just, as they would say, like kind of kicked cancer, but is now concerned with like what the rest of her life is going to be like, with that sort of living kind of hanging over her head, and how does she move on from this? It's literally the very first setup of the very first scene. That's a really interesting thing. And the movie is not about her. I'm not saying that she should have been the main character, but there seemed to be this disconnect between like, well, I don't know, what is her motivation at all for the way she acts in this? And it occurred to me, because I think the writers, and I could be wrong about this, I don't know who's on the writing team of this, but it seemed like it might have lacked a female perspective in putting that character together. And then once I realized that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why her character doesn't make a lot of sense, because it's just, even, Paul Rudd's backstory, like, at first you might say, why is he befriending the Tim Robinson character? Yes. But you learn more about him as it goes on, and you learn about some of his own weaknesses, and so that makes sense. You're like, oh, okay, well, he's, first of all, a nice guy, and also he's got some of his oon weaknesses, and so that's what maybe drew him to this other guy. But like, you never learn Kate Mara's motivation, and in that way, I sort of, I kind of, maybe I could be talked out of this, but this morning I was like, oh yeah, I think that she was there just to have the male characters react to something, or like have something to try to achieve, and that would be like her affection. And it kind of bummed me out that like you just never see her at the end. Like, she just disappears from the script in the last, like, he just kind of says, I'm going to go run this errand, and then other things happen, and we never get a reaction shot from her or anything. Or just like, wow, I guess the woman just disappeared into the background.
Is this because people commonly wonder whatever attracted Genevieve to you?
Yeah, I'm very.
Do you feel like this is life imitating art?
I'm sick of answering that question.
Imitating.
No,
you're right.
Was a little bit bummed that because she does such a good job. I think she's a really good actor, and I was like, I could have used just a little bit more explanation around her.
No, I think you're right. Becca commented on that as well in a less specific way, but she just basically said, like, I don't understand why she would have ever been with him, and I hadn't really pieced that together. But you're right. They don't. Like, there isn't something that's happened to Tim Robinson's character that has fundamentally changed him, where, like, he used to a certain way, and now they're having problems because he's this way that he is. It just seems like this is how he's always been, which, like as you've already said, raises the question why an otherwise pretty with it person in Kate Mara would have ever wanted to marry this person or be with this person, because he's clearly very self-centered and very and just odd in a bunch of different ways. I do think naming his preferred clothing maker Ocean View Dining is somehow...
I'm so confused by that. So they were saying dining, huh?
Dining.
Yeah.
OVD. I guess OVD is going to get some more of my money. Yeah. Ocean View Dining.
And then doesn't he even say at one point, they make pretty good food too? Doesn't he mumble that at one point?
Did he? I missed that if he says that.
I couldn't tell because I remember the first time they mentioned it, I'm like, is he saying dining? The clothing brand is Ocean View Dining? Why is it dining? And then I thought I heard him say, oh yeah, they make pretty good biscuits too, or something like that, but I could be totally wrong about that.
I really enjoyed the kind of look of the film. Mm-hmm. It reminded me a little bit of like an Alexander Payne movie. Like, I think Alexander Payne really enjoys shooting places that are not overly cinematic in their nature. Like, he could probably do a whole movie at a SanDisk facility somewhere in Longmont. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like that's what he does a really nice job with films like Election. And he sets a lot of films in the Midwest. And like, they keep going. Well, it's two times. One time, the Tim Robinson character and the Paul Rudd character are like mushroom hunting, and then the Tim Robinson character takes his son back for mushroom hunting. And the place that they pick to be the backdrop of that is so deeply sad. Mm-hmm. Like, it speaks to this certain kind of Nowheresville, like urban environment where you just kind of have, really suburban environment, but a suburban environment that also hasn't been like. It hasn't been manicured to it doesn't have. I'm doing a bad job explaining it, but it's like these spaces that we encounter in life, these physical spaces that are just kind of undefined. It's just a kind of a boggy, kind of grayish thing with trees and some standing water, but it's what doubles for nature in this area. Mm-hmm. There's just like nothing particularly notable about it, but it's like where they keep going to look for these mushrooms, where they're not like looking for mushrooms in some beautiful, downed, like some area with like a bunch of forest and these downed logs with mushrooms growing on the underside of these, it's nothing like that. It's just like a weird passed over little patch of something in a kind of ex-urban community. Like, there's little things like that. Even the name, which we can't remember, of the spaghetti place that they kind of go to. Like, I just felt like there were these touches in the movie that I thought they really nailed, or at least gave me a feeling, right? I said this yesterday, I do think that the funny parts of the movie for me made me laugh out loud in a way that, like, I don't think I've laughed out loud at a movie in a theater in a long time.
Don't you think?
Like, I don't even know if I laugh out loud that much at movies, to be honest with you.
Is it partially, though, those laughs came because in between the laughs is so squirmy, right? It's like you're so... Again, I was literally watching through my eyes at times so that when I did... Oh, I'm just looking at the clock and I realized you got to run. But I felt like it made you...
I think I should leave.
Yeah, I think you should leave. I felt like it made you really kind of earn those laughs, right? Because it's so hard to watch.
You know what's weird is I also have a really hard time watching people being cringy, but for me it's more real life. I remember being a kid and watching like Donahue or Oprah back when Oprah was trashy. People pretend like Oprah's always been just like interviewing some like great American writer or whatever. She used to be pretty trashy too, but I would watch those shows and then I would get so embarrassed for the people on the shows, or maybe it was Springer or whatever. I'd get so embarrassed I'd have to change the channel. But weirdly, I don't, because I know that like I think you should leave and because I know this movie is fictional, weirdly enough, I don't have that reaction to Tim Robinson. Like, it doesn't cause me to clench my bunghole in the way that other stuff that's cringy does, and I can't explain why that is. So I was not uncomfortable in the way you were uncomfortable watching it for some strange reason.
Yeah, I found it really, you mentioned that I was watching it practically alone in the theater. I will say that, so this was a theater, even though it's like a really big one and it was mostly empty, you still have to choose your seats in advance, right? I guess that's, of course, I can't remember the last time you haven't done that. And it was funny because the person behind the glass as I'm buying my ticket like swings her computer screen around. She's like, pick a seat, and it's just like just a sea of openness, and it looked like there was just like one like kind of couple of seats right in the middle that had been taken, and everything else was fine. So I basically just grabbed one, sort of, I said K22 or whatever, and then I was like, I'll just make up my mind when I go in there. I'll just try not to sit near people. And so I go in. I'm the first and only one in there. I know some people are going to be sitting a couple of rows in front of me, so I just sort of like kind of choose a central place to sit, and I know that it's not technically my seat, but it's not going to matter in the long run, because in the sea of empty seats, even if I happen to pick somebody else's seat, they'll just sit somewhere else. You know what I mean? I couldn't imagine anybody caring that much.
Unless they're Tim Robinson.
Unless they're Tim Robinson's character. Exactly, right.
Who would totally have no chill about it.
He would pretend like he does. He would sit down until the veins started bulging. But
Yeah,
all that is to
right.
say, I have this thing, and this is a really bad instinct of mine. So I'm sitting there, and then I've watched, I feel like I'm the veteran here. I've watched all of Newsy. I've seen all of the commercials. And then some people are coming in at the last minute, and these people sit like kind of right directly one row behind me, a little bit to my right. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. You could have sat anywhere. Like, why would you sit right behind me? And then a couple of people came in not too long after that, and they sit even kind of closer to my left, and I could kind of smell somebody's perfume or something. It wasn't bad, but it was just like one of those things. I was just like, this theater is so big and empty. Why would you be sitting so close to me that I can smell you? And again, it wasn't a bad smell. I want to be very clear about that.
It's because the same thing was happening. We didn't have to reserve our seats for the theater we went to, but by the end of it, our theater was not sold out, even though the previous theater had been sold out. But the showing we were at in this other theater, I'd say it was maybe half full.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone clusters. There's this like nexus. There's this XY axis, which is not right up against the screen, but not all the way in the back, and not all the way to the right or all the way to the left.
Yeah.
And there's this orientation of wanting to be. And so everyone, when they're picking their seats, they're naturally trying to go towards. It's like a word cloud of what we think the best spot. And you were probably in that too, because you were the first person there.
And it makes sense. I mean, you want to be central, and you don't want to be too close. And like Sinners was a bit of a bummer because we did go to an almost sold out theater, so we watched it kind of from the wings to the left, and it really did have an effect on my viewing experience. It seemed a little bit dimmer. It wasn't as quite I think as sparkly as it would have been.
I think I saw Avatar that way, which is the weirdest thing ever,
yeah, right.
that I even went to Avatar. But like, I think it was like the 3D showing, but the only seats we could get were like up against the wall. So I was like, I'm not getting the full experience of these leaves in 3D.
Right. They're USB sex. I'm not. But anyway, let me just finish my thought, because I am concerned about your time. But just
yes, I am too.
So I was like, why would you sit so close to me? But then it ended up being like kind of a blessing. I don't know, blessing is too strong of a word there. But what I liked was behind me to my left was a couple. It sounded like a man and a woman. I don't really know, but I could hear their reactions, and it sounded like they were reacting, especially the guy, or the person I assume was a guy, was reacting in the same way, like very, very similar to mine, like laughing out loud at the same things, and sort of like a kind of almost an inaudible groan at other times. So I was like, oh, I guess turns out there's a reason why people cluster together in humanity, and maybe I shouldn't be so quick to be like, get away from me, strangers, because we enjoy things as a species together. And it actually improved, I feel like, my experience a little bit, sharing the same cringe moments and laugh out loud moments with this couple behind me.
There was the point where you were watching through his fingers and he was watching through your fingers.
It did
you guys
get
were
weird.
covering each other's eyes.
It did get a little bit intimate.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you saw it. I'm glad you are glad you saw it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we didn't spoil too much of it for the listeners. So let me know, listeners, how you felt about the movie if you go see it. So, all right. We are going to be wrapping things up today because I got to go off and film this stuff. And then I will fly back home tonight. And then tomorrow I'll be at the Madrona Hill studio. I had that moment yesterday when the plane landed here in Colorado that when I turned my phone back on, I had a notification from Alaska Airlines saying you can check into your flight home. So that's always
the moment you land, you're already getting the notification.
I was landing my flight out here, and
Yeah.
it was already time for me to check into my flight home. So, but that'll be nice. I'll be back home tomorrow, and we'll be bringing you another episode of TBTL. In the meantime, I sure hope you all have a really great Tuesday. You take care of yourselves, and you please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
I'm bored.
This party's officially boring. I'm bored, and you people are very rude. Let's get out of here.
Power out.